welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read in October. I only read 5 books in October, which was a little disappointing, but you know, school exists and it's kicking my ass. And you know, I'm kind of going through it, but it's okay because we're here now. So the first book that I read this month was Dracula by Bram Stoker. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars, and here's the thing. If you haven't read this book or you don't know the story about Dracula, this book is about a man who goes and visits Count Dracula on behalf of, I guess, his boss, because Dracula wants to buy property in London. He wants to move out to London and basically spread vampireness, the undead curse. I have said so many times at this point that if I was alive when this book was published, I would have been all over this. But because it's almost 2020 and I'm now reading it, it's not going to have the same effect. And that's okay. I think when reading classics, it's kind of important to understand that, you know, they're classics for a reason and they're acclaimed novels for a reason. Whether you like it or not, that's completely up to you. But you still have to acknowledge, like, what it did and why it's so important to literature. And, you know, like, we wouldn't have Twilight without this book, so. But in all seriousness, I thought this book was good. I really did enjoy it. There were just some things that didn't click with me. Some parts of the book I thought were a little bit boring, and I thought the pacing was a little bit slow. But other than that, I thought it was a solid read. The second book that I read in October was The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. That's his name, right?
That's his name.
I know that everyone and their mothers has watched this movie but me, but that's okay. If you haven't watched this movie or seen the book, I'm going to tell you what it's about right now. This book is about a single mother, and her daughter starts to get sick, basically, or so she thinks. She starts acting out and not being herself till eventually they come to the conclusion that she is possessed by a demon. Let me tell you right now, this book rocked my fucking socks.
This was so wild.
I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I have read on like a few different places that this has been like listed as one of the most controversial books ever written, and I definitely understand why now after reading this book. This book was incredibly graphic, and I can deal with graphic themes and writing in my books. Like, I don't really care. It doesn't really faze me. But this was a whole other story. There were times where I was reading this book and I didn't even feel like taking a break from reading or stopping like reading, but I had to put it down because like the scene I had just read was just too much. Like, no. I had to just put it down and come back to it later because this was so much. But all that said, it was really enjoyable. I really enjoyed this book. I don't even know. It was not what I was expecting. I don't really know what I was expecting going into this book, but it wasn't what I got. But I wasn't disappointed either. The third book that I read in October was Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. This book is exactly how it sounds. It is about a vampire who is telling the story of his life to an interviewer. He talks about his life before turning into a vampire, how he was turned into a vampire, and his life as a vampire. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I actually do plan on rereading it hopefully soon because I feel like my first read of this book, I didn't take away as much as I feel like I could have. And I feel like this book has the potential to be like a 5-star read if I read it again. There were a lot of parts in this book that I found to be really, really boring. But like I said, I feel like I didn't take away from it as much as I could have through my first read of it. And that's why I really want to reread it, because I feel like there's so much that I could get out of it. And even that said, I still gave it 4 stars. I still actually really enjoyed it. But I still feel like it could have been more. I watched the movie after I read it, and I loved the movie. And I felt like the movie was such a good adaptation for the story. And there were a lot of things in the movie that I was like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot that even happened in the story. Which is what kind of sparked me wanting to reread this book. But all in all, it was a good story. It's incredibly gothic, which is right up my alley. It was good. Definitely planning a reread in the near future. The next book that I read in October was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is Leigh Bardugo's latest release. I honestly barely even understand how to explain what the story is about, but basically it is about a girl who has been through some shit, goes to Yale. There's secret societies at Yale that are all involved in like occult activities, and this girl works with the, I guess, main house that kind of overlooks all the societies. There's ghosts, magic, I don't know, there's a lot of shit in this book, and it's really not an easy plot to explain or describe. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I really wanted to love this book. I wanted to love this book, but I just didn't. And there were a lot of things that I didn't really like about this book. The first thing that I didn't really like about this book was that it was really boring. For the good, like, honestly, like, half of the book was really, really boring, and it was kind of really hard to get through. And I think the reason why is because the pacing itself of the book and the world building, I feel like wasn't executed that well. There was so much information just thrown into your face from the beginning of the book, and you don't really get any backstory or context to what's really going on or any of the world building until, I don't even know, maybe like 200 pages in, I can't remember. Because of the pacing of the book, it made it difficult for me to care about anything that was going on or about any of the characters. And when you don't care about what you're reading, it's like, why do you want to keep reading? You know? So it was just a little boring. I actually thought about putting it away multiple times throughout reading it, but it eventually pulled itself together, and I got the backstory and the context that I was looking for. So there are also a lot of parts in the story that I thought were just really edgy and like corny, so I wasn't into that either. Definitely wasn't my favorite. I did have a lot of problems with it, but I was interested enough in the story and will be continuing on with the series because I'm pretty sure it's the first in a series. So after I read Ninth House, I decided, you know what? I'm really tired of reading horror, and I'm really tired of reading scary, dark shit. I just want to read a fluffy, lighthearted romance. So that's what I did. So the last book I read in October was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. It's an interesting last name. This book is an enemies to lovers romance between the first son of the United States and a prince of England. Whatever. There's probably like multiple princes. He's one of them. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. It's an enemies to lovers. It was good. It was fun. It was fluffy. It was exactly what I was looking for. It's gay, so, you know, that's always great. It was just a really good time. It was really refreshing after all of the dark, scary, spooky, whatever books of the month. It was really refreshing to just read something like this, and, you know, like, it had its emotional moments and stuff that were definitely, like, you know, important and emotional. But it was just a lot of fun, and it was really lighthearted, and it was really funny too. Like, it's been, like, honestly kind of a long time since I've read something that was funny or something that actually made me laugh, and it was just really refreshing. So if you're looking for a fun romance, a gay romance, this is definitely one that you should pick up. So those were all the books that I read in October. Hopefully I read more in November, because that would be nice. Hopefully school gives me a break. Thanks for watching. I hope y'all have a lovely day, and I'll see y'all next time.